Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining the TagoIO 2025 webinar series. Today is a pretty good one, very important one. We listened to our customers and we developed a new feature called Entity. Today we're going to be going over the best practices for Entity using a structured database. There's lots of good information here. We're going to do a live screen share and show you some items there. But before we get started, in there you'll see a chat during the webinar. If you have any questions at all, feel free to post your questions there and we'll get to them either in real time or at the end of the webinar if we have time. But either way, we'll try to get to everybody's questions there. Follow us. So on our website, you can go to events and see the upcoming events. We have Barcelona that we're coming up on here very quickly. So some of our employees will be in Barcelona representing the company. We also have some upcoming webinars. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Highly recommend that because we also post there of the events and lots of cool information, new features that are coming out, new sensors we've added, so on and so forth, those types of things. And then you can always sign up for our newsletter as well, which is also a great way to get information on what's going on here at TagoIO. So with that, I am David Hall, the Customer Success Manager here at TagoIO. I also have Victor Lima, which is a lead software developer here at Tago, and he'll be presenting later today as well. Hello, Douglas. I see you're in Brazil. Nice. I put a sticky note to put a chat of where you're from. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, a little bit outside of the city of Raleigh, North Carolina right now. But I always love to see where everybody's from. We get lots of people from all over the world since Tago is in over 120 countries. So with that, for the agenda, we're going to go through introduction, which I've already done. Victor's going to show you some entity examples, developing with entity, scaling applications with entity. As I said, we'll have a Q&A at the end, but feel free at any time during the webinar to post your questions. I see we have somebody from Punta, somebody from Argentina. Very nice. Thank you guys for joining. I love seeing our customers from all over the world joining these webinars. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Victor, who's going to start with the introduction and take you most of the way through the webinar. And I will see you guys when I am back. Go ahead, Victor.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. So I'm Victor Lima. I work here on Tago developing applications for customers. And one of the features that we had released this year is the entity feature. So this feature is still in beta. So there is a lot of functionalities we still want to bring to entity to make it even more useful than it is today. But I want to give you a bit of introduction and how you can already start using TagoIO entities to manage and organize your applications, data, and information. So without further ado, entities are basically tabular data, so you can think of it like a SQL database, but without the SQL part of the database. So you will be able to organize your data in tables and set up the columns and which type each column is based on which information you want to insert on it. So its purpose is for you to use on several different types of data and get away from using devices to store organizational data. For example, user information, settings information about your application, let's say you have a tracking or shipment application, so you want to store truck information like the plate, the name of the truck, etc. So you can put all these things inside an entity and just link with your dashboard. So this is the idea behind the entity. And as we add more functionalities, you will be capable of using more and more entities and correlate with your device's information. So today, most applications use device mutable for storing this information. So our goal is also for you to get out of the mutable devices and start to use solely entities. Size entity will be a much more powerful tool with the validation part and dashboard integration in the future than the device mutables. So here I have just an example of the entity screen. So you have your data. As you can see, you have columns. You can set up columns any way you want. You have an ID for each one of your data. And you can manage it through TagoIO admin as well. So what is the structure for entity? So you can imagine each entity as a table or a block. Depending on how you are creating your application, you may have many entities. So for example, you have a SIM card entity where you register all your SIM cards information like CCID, a number, provider. You can have a single entity with all your SIM cards, or you can have an entity for each customer, so you can completely separate the data, and one customer never have access to the information of another customer. So usually it's more recommended if you have lots of customers to separate data in different entities than putting all together. But it's your decision and really depends on the complexity of our application. So each entity is going to have the list of fields or columns. These columns can be string, integer, float, timestamp, and JSON. So JSON gives a lot of flexibility because we did notice that in the device table, when people try to store organizational data, they would usually use metadata to save on, on that input, etc. So JSON is going to take care of anything you don't want to filter. You can put in a JSON field and leave it there. You also have indexes. So index is very important for optimizing the speed of your entities for search and sorting. So sometimes you don't want the table to be organized when you show a table, right? By the last data that had been created. You maybe want to organize by a position column, an order column, or just by name. So index will allow you to change the sorting on dashboards and even analysis, since the index is what is going to tell the order of the data that you're getting from the entity lists. And lastly, we have the schema parser. So schema parser is also a powerful feature because even though we want to add a lot of field types to dashboards, uh, we know that customers do have very specific needs. So schema parser comes to give you a JavaScript tool so you can validate the fields, the value of the fields before adding to the entity table. So if you have a specific phone number format, you want to validate mail format, you can do all this using the schema parser. And it's going to work for both the dashboards, when you try to create something using a dashboard, or when you try to use the API or the analysis to insert the data. And you can customize the error messages as well. So the use cases, you can store contact lists, user profiles. For assets, maybe you want to store equipment that they use, maintenance records, audit log information, log information. Audit log, I don't think, I still think audit log is going to be immutable device, because usually you don't want anyone to change the audit log. You want it to be immutable. But if you have a login system in your application, you may want to use entity. For business logics like product catalogs, inventory management, um, and also relationship. So relationship is something we want to bring more functionalities to create relationships. So we want you to be able to link data inside an entity with a specific device. Or we want to be able to, for you to link entities with devices on a map, for example. So this is something we are going to expand the support as we go further this year on our own new releases. Okay, so I think I gave you all the introduction you need. So let's start a live demo. What I'm going to do here is, first I'm going to create an entity with you, showing all the steps and giving tips on how you should be creating entities. I'm going to, in the part 2 developing, I'm going to create a dashboard and show you how you can integrate your entity to the dashboard. And last one, scaling, would be analysis scripts, so you can understand how you can dynamically create entities and use analysis to insert data. So let me start sharing my screen here. Okay, so I here on my accounts, let's access the entity feature. I already have one, but let's create a new one from zero. And I want to call this a SIM card entity. So usually, if you want to have a single entity with all the information from your application, let's say all the SIM cards for the entire application, you would just create a SIM card. But if you want to create by customer, I would recommend to enter, you can have spaces here, by the way, but I recommend to enter the customer name here, for example, and then you have your fields. So entity already come with 3 fields predefined that you cannot change and you cannot remove, which is the ID, created at, and updated at. So this is going to be managed by TagoIO itself every time you create a new data. I'm not sure if I remember if you can customize the ID. I know we have a plan for you to be able to customize the ID, but I don't remember if it's already available or not. But anything else you cannot customize. So for a SIM card list, usually you want to have a CCID field, a phone number field, maybe a provider, and a data plan. So here you can choose what is required, and you can also choose the field type. So I'm going mainly use strings here, but let's say you want to have an extra field or a metadata field, so you can use for anything else that you think is not important. For filtering, you can put it here as well. So let's create, and then we have our first entity already created. So if you want to manage the fields again, you can go to the fields here. So for existing entity, you can create new fields, and you can edit the existing ones or even delete. But most importantly, you have the indexes here. So TagoIO already create 3 indexes for you. That is the more common to use, which is searching with IDs, searching with the most recent created or the most recent updated. So for this specific SIM card list, I made these indexes may be enough. And by the way, if I don't create an index here for phone number, for example, I will never be able to search by phone number, not even through the API. So if I want to, at any given time, use the API to, for example, search a data by its CCID, I need to create a searchable field here, which in this case I do want. So I want to search by CCID. I can add other types of search as well to combine in the same index, but I think most of my application would only search by CCID. So I'll just create this index so it's available for me to use on my analysis. Okay, so we can use TagoIO here to create a data, but of course you want to use dashboards or analysis. You don't want to be coming here every time and create a data, but I just for demonstration, I can create a test data here for you to see. So let's say, let's put some real information here, right? Or more placeable here, here information. So let's say we call this global me mobile, and our data plan is unlimited. And metadata JSON, we can put anything we want here. Let's try to confirm. And here we have our first data. So the next step would be to set up a schema parser. So I'm not going to enable this here, but we have some examples. So for example, if you want to validate an email format, this is how you would do. Same thing for validate phone number. So we do have phone number, so maybe I can leave this one for validation phone number. So if phone number is less than, so this is a very basic validation. It's just checking if the length of the phone number is less than 10. So let's put 5 here. And if it must be at least 5 digits. So you can customize your error message. This is what's going to show for you if you try to insert a phone number to the API and it gives this error, or in the dashboards as well. So we can save this, and we have our schema parser working as well. I also have tags. So tags is something very important because if you have some experience with Tago already, tags is how you give you create relationship between the different TagoIO assets. So we can relate devices with entities or even entities with other entities using tags. And for blueprint dashboards, we also need tags. So I do have a dashboard that is expecting my entity to have an entity type key with SIM card as a value. So before I move ahead, let me create a dashboard from the beginning so you can see how this works. So you can create a blueprint and how I would how I would get my entity dashboard on a blueprint is by selecting the type blueprint entity here, giving it a identifier, getting my tag key and my tag value. So it needs to match the exact tag I have for my entity. Press create, and it's already going to show up here on the top. And if I do have customers and I don't want them to see that, I can update my dashboard to only show the drop down when there is more than one. So as widgets, TagoIO is bringing you support across different widgets. So we have entity table to display the data that you have inside an entity. We also have support for entities in the dynamic table, so you can create columns using entity or even using entity for editing columns. And we also have the support on the input form. So input form, I'm going to show you with details a little bit later, but you can choose between device and entity here. So for now, let's create just an entity table here, so you can see how quickly we can set up this. So you can get your association. I have my index, which is using ID. So if I want to use a different index for sorting, for example, if I want to sort for a different order, I would go to my entity here and create and get the name of the index. So I have by created, by updated, for example. I could create a index for phone number if I want to sort by, and you have the information how it's going to be sorted here, right? So sorted by CID. Anytime I want to sort something, it needs to be the last field here. So for example, I want to filter by ID or CCID, a provider, but I want to sort by data plan. So data plan needs to be the last one. So when I create this index, you can see it's sorting by the data plan. And I could copy this and put it here. So I have the new index. Here I can choose my fields, which I just want to show the CCID for now. I'm going to create. And you can see showing my CCID here. And I could add all the other fields. So just for demonstration, I have already created a dashboard. So I put together this dashboard so I can see all the information from my entity. And I can edit from here. So let me show you quickly how I did set up this table. So one of the things you can do is that you have edit option, so you can edit your entity directly from here as you would do normally with data. Entity table also have the show control column. And of course, you can add custom buttons here, like I did for adding a custom button for delete that is going to trigger an analysis. And when the customer presses the button, I delete that exactly same entity after doing all the validations, right? If the user has the permission, etc. And then I delete the entity and disappear from his lists. I also added a edit button here, which is the other widget I want to show you, which is the input form. So I only put these two fields here so I can finish this together with you. So I can edit this and I have the input form. So I have the CCID here and the data plan using a drop down for limited, unlimited, but I do need at least two other fields. which is my phone number. So let's set up this. I would go to entity, select my entity field, which is phone number. And I want to give this a label as well, and my provider. So I need to be an entity here. Okay, so we can save and test, so we can create data directly on my entity table. So we can test this. Oh, got an error. Need to check one by one. This one I put device for some reason. And let's try again. Okay, so it had been created here with limited. Oh, the other one also had been created. So you can use this to create, and if you want a better experience, you'd actually connect this input form to an analysis, so you can have feedback for the user using validation fields, etc. So this is basically how you can integrate this to your current application. But the last thing I want to show you is what if I need to do this using automations, right? You don't want to be coming here and creating entity manually for each one of your customers. Usually you want to create an input form that you create a customer and automatically create all the entities for them, maybe even adding data to their entity tables. So the way you would do that is, of course, using an analysis. So let me try to set up an analysis together with you here so you can understand what you can do. So let's call this entity creation and get a hello world. And before I try to do anything here in the analysis, I also need to set up the access. So my analysis is going to have all the permissions you need to create the entity. So let's pick by ID here, entity creation. And here we can choose entity. So we can give access, create, edit, I think it's important. And I also want to show you how to get and send data. Yeah, I think that's all. And if we want to limit to a single entity, we can pick only the SIM card customer here. But let's create any, because we are going to be creating entities, right? So we need to have access to any entity that we create. Yeah, so I have the hello world here. So usually if you are doing this, creating entities using input form, you would be using the scope, right? So you can get, for example, the name for your entity from the scope. Assuming you had been using a device data to create this entity, you can get the value here. And just for demonstration, I'm not going to be using the input form, so I choose get default name here, analysis. And for creating the entity, we need to have access to the resources. And we should be starting to create the entity here. Let me go just put this in a try catch so I can see if any error is happening. And first thing we need to do is call our function resources.entities.create, and it would expect the entity parameters, which is basically name, index, if you want to pass create a first index, payload decoder, which is the schema parser. We have the schema, and you have tags if you already want to create using some tags. So let's start with the name, which I already have put here as a variable, and the schema. And the way you set up schema is an object. You give the name of our field, and then the definition of our field. So for example, my type is text. So you can see it auto-completes if you want to use the autocomplete to help you. So type, you have all the types here. I'm going to use text. If it's required, true. And I think it's only these two fields that you need. So we can start to create the phone number as well. We type text, required, true. And it goes wrong, right? So let me just to speed up things, copy all the others here. And this would be enough for us to create our entity. We can add some console logs here just to help us, right? So create SIM card entity. And SIM card had been successfully created. So another thing we can do just after creating the entity is editing the entity, right? So for example, you want to create the entity, do a few things, then you want to edit. You can quickly add some tags, for example, editing tags after creation. Of course, you could create it directly here, right? You have the tags if you want to create tags from here, but just for you to understand how to edit. And let's say we want to be sending data already for this entity right after the creation. So new entity here is going to have an ID, which is your entity ID for you to use. So we can use the resources entity send entity data. And as you can see here, very different from what you do with device data, where you have variable, all the TagoIO specific fields for data. Here, your data is the column names you have created in your schema. So you are going to send CCID number, provide active data plan as body of your data. You will not be using groups, any of that. So we can save and try to run to see if this works. So entity had been created successfully. For some reason, I had not received the ID. Let's try to create again. Oh, my error. So this needs to be awaited. I probably already have two entities here, right? Yeah, two entities. Let's try to create a new one just to have a successful run. So phone number is required. Okay. Let me do a empty for here. Okay, entity created successfully with ID and no other error. So if I come here, you can see I have created all these entities because I had been running, trying to get a successful run. If I enter here, you can see I have my schemas, I have my data that I created, and I also have my tags from my edit. So this is basically how you can use entities today. As I did mention, we are going to add more functionalities to entities in the coming months in order to increase the possibility of relationships you can do with an entity, a device, through all the widgets from TagoIO. I think that's all from my side, David.
Thank you, Victor. If anybody has any questions, feel free to post them in chat. We'll hang on here just for a minute. While we're doing that, I'm going to share my screen and just show you a couple things on the site. You're all done with your presentation, right, Victor?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go through a couple quick things on the website here. So one thing that's really, really popular right now are the dashboard templates. So these templates, you can see them when you're in your admin, but we have these templates that you can use for free. They're a great starting point. All you have to do is attach a sensor, associate the sensor with the dashboard, and you're off and running. So this is really, really nice to have here. If we go back, we also have, this is also free. If you're interested in learning how to build on TagoIO, and I'll tell you as the customer success manager, the people that take these courses, and again, as I said, they're free, the people that take these courses advance very quickly in Tago and can do things like Victor was just showing. The 100 modules are more of the fundamentals, if you will. The 200 modules are a little more advanced. I think you need to know a little bit of JavaScript, but fairly easy to take. These are at your own pace. So you could take these courses at your own pace. I see we do have a question here, Victor. Hi, how are the limits in entity? How data can, I think he means how much data can we store?
So currently the limit is the same as the device mutable, so 50,000 data, something like that, right?
Yes, I think you're right. Yes.
So the limits are exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So as I was saying, you have the Learning Center here. Very, very popular and very effective, as I said. If you want to see upcoming events, you can come here to our Tago event page, and you'll see, obviously we're in this webinar now, but our next webinar will be basically talking about cellular technologies. I highly recommend signing up for this one because this is some more recent news, if you will. But this is going to be a good one. You're going to learn a lot in this one. Our partner Device Solutions will be there with us as well. And then, as I mentioned at the top of the webinar, we'll be in Barcelona, Spain. You can actually click here if anybody on this call happens to be there or know of anybody that's going to be there. You can click on this and actually schedule a meeting with our CEO that's going to be there. Tiago Lima, a CSM, is going to be there, and I believe one or two other employees. But anyway, this is our events page. You can find everything you need to know there. And if you guys are interested in a demo or if you have questions, if you're already a customer, please reach out to your customer success manager. We always want to talk to you guys. to see maybe you don't have an issue at all and you're just interested of what we're working on, right? But reach out to your CSM. They can help you in many different ways. So make sure you do that. But other than that, I think that is all we have for today. So I appreciate everybody's time, and I hope to see you on the next webinar. As I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your CSM or just ask for a demo through the website. But other than that, thank you, everybody. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at in the world, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.